Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are listening from. Welcome back to the Podium Podcast, where today, of course, it is the 2025 Bahrain Grand Prix driver rankings, in which we will take the 20 drivers of the current grid and see how well they have managed to do in this year's Bahrain Grand Prix, in which Oscar Piastri took his fourth win of his career, the second of the season, to make it the first ever driver in 2025 to have multiple wins in a season. So, let's get into it. Let's not wait around for anything. Let's start with the Sauber pairing of Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto. Well, let's start with Nico Hülkenberg. Nico Hülkenberg qualified in P16. Result, disqualification. Really unfortunate for Hülkenberg. It deemed that after the Grand Prix, the FIA said that his skid wear on the skid block was too much too much, which did not pass the minimum weight restriction. So, as we saw in the Grand Prix, a recurring theme for the Grand Prix this year, that they ran very low floors, which meant that there was a lot of skidding, lots of sparks, lots of quite cool pictures that you could actually take. But that meant that also there was a high risk, high reward in running a low setup, because the wear on the skid block could be too much for it to not pass the minimum requirement by the FIA. There was a similar thing in China with both Ferrari cars. And so it seems that maybe this year it might be a recurring theme, which is really unfortunate, because as a Formula 1 fan, you do not want the, result of a Grand Prix determined after the race is finished. For me personally, it's always been a thing where they should determine a Grand Prix there and then. If there's a problem with it, then sort it out during the course of the race. So, that meant that a 14th place, which he originally got, was later met with disqualification. So, there's not much we can do about that. So, I think it's a solid 5 out of 10 for Nico Hülkenberg. Wasn't really there or thereabouts. He was really stuck in the DRS train, similar to his teammate. But it's very unfortunate that a disqualification summed off a pretty mediocre weekend for the German driver. If we go next to Gabriel Bortoleto, qualified P18, finished P18. I mean, it would have been a P19 without the disqualification, so I think a 5 out of 10 has to be given to the Brazilian driver, who's only done 4 Grand Prix in his Formula 1 career. For Sauber, it seems that this is, as I said in pretty much every single other podcast, it is a year of transformation. This is not a year where they were thinking, yes, we're going to invest heavily into this year, we're going to do well. This is a year of really, just trying to get all the building blocks together for 2026. As we said today, as we heard last weekend, at Bahrain, Jonathan Wheatley, who was the Red Bull chief technical director, has made his transition to Sauber, ready for next year's Audi collaboration. And so he's himself is just getting used to really what being a team principal should be like in a team like Sauber. So this is not a year where they're going to be like, we're going to be challenging for points. But saying that, they did get points in Australia, I believe. However, they are still bottom of the championship. Let's go to Williams. Let's start with Alex Albon. Alex Albon, the Thai driver. Alex qualified P15 and finished P12. And it's going to be another 5 out of 10 for... that's 3 5 out of 10s on the bounce. A very, very mediocre weekend. I think this weekend's maybe a little bit more representative of the Williams' pace. But I think it was a poorer weekend on Albon's side of the garage compared to Sainz. Reason being, this was the first time he actually hasn't made Q3 in 2025, and it's the first time he hasn't scored points in a Grand Prix this year, which in a Williams car, which finished 9th last season, is pretty impressive. He's managed to outperform his teammate consistently. However, this weekend, it seemed that he was just a little bit off the pace compared to his teammate. Couldn't really do much. I mean, stuck in a DRS train. I think like 11th to 15th was stuck in a DRS train, to be fair. Obviously, they tried the strategy with similar to everyone, but it was a weekend of coulda, shoulda, woulda for Williams. I think this was a weekend where they could have made that step up, considering RB had a really poor weekend and Red Bull didn't seem that quick. They could have scored points and they were close to scoring points. However, it just seemed that they were just a little bit off the pace. It could have been down to setup. It could have been down to just poor performance from the driver. But we can see that wasn't the best weekend for Alex Albon. Carlos Sainz, however. Carlos Sainz qualified P8, finished with a DNF. Now, this one might cause turn heads because I'm going to give him a 2 out of 10 for Sainz's performance. Yes, qualifying was exceptional, putting his car in Q3 for the first time compared to his teammate who couldn't get out of Q2 was exceptional. However, in the race where you score points, that is where all of your performance really matters. It seemed that maybe the race pace wasn't there for Sainz. However, his performance was a pretty abysmal. I mean, just his on-track action, defending from drivers, trying to attack, was just a bit reckless. I mean, we saw he had 2 collisions in the Grand Prix. One with Yuki Tsunoda in turn 1, which caused the red flag, and one with Antonelli going into turn 10. Safety car, man. And one going into turn 10 with Antonelli, which caused his retirement as there was a massive hole on the side of his side pod, which meant that obviously retirement was inbound because the performance loss was just too much for the Williams, and both of them were his fault and resulted in a 10-second penalty, which I do believe he has to serve in Saudi Arabia. A very poor weekend. I think it was more down to desperation, his maybe clumsy-ish performance, because if you qualify in P8 after having a really poor start to the season, you want to do anything and everything to try and make sure you capitalize on your good qualifying. But that also meant that recklessness crept in, and it really summed up a poor weekend. His retirement. Still only scored 1 point this season, but I'm pretty sure he would like to do a lot better next time in Saudi Arabia. Haas now. Haas. Let's go for Esteban Ocon. Esteban Ocon qualified P14, finished P8. Very good performance, very, very good performance. I'm going to have to give him an 8 out of 10 for that. Yeah, really good. He's managed to make his way through the field. He went really long on the first stint, I believe, on the softs, which really helped when the safety car came in, because then he could put on the mediums and just fly through the field. Very good performance. I mean, yes, qualifying wasn't the best, but it seemed that the Haas really just struggled in qualifying this year. And, this weekend. But, top notch. He's managed to do the work. He's managed to score some valuable points for Haas. And he's managed to really capitalize on a very crazy Grand Prix in which the field was always changing. And he's managed to ride the wave and really, really do fairly well. His teammate, Oliver Bearman, qualified P20, bottom of the grid, and finished a solid P10. I'm going to also give him an 8 out of 10. Both Haas's are going to give an 8 out of 10, because Oliver Bearman, which I think should have been the driver of the day compared to Lewis Hamilton, but great drive. He managed to as well. I think he was put on the mediums at the start, like the Ferraris, which meant that he can really, after everyone's pitted on the softs, really go and have some clean air to put in some decent laps, which meant come the safety car, it also really benefited him in the long run. Made some impressive moves, Oliver Bearman, on a couple of people, and it showed that his qualifying pace was a little bit poor. Still, his race pace is where his racecraft was pretty impressive. The moves he was making, the confidence he had in the car, and he was only 2 places off his teammate, which, when you started 6 places off your teammate, is fairly interesting, and I think that it summed up a really good weekend for Haas, who managed to put themselves in P5 of the championship, which I mean is weird to think, but they're not that far off Ferrari, their older team, I suppose their senior team, which is interesting to say the least. Alpine. Pierre Gasly qualified P4, qualified P5, but got put up a grid place for after Mercedes got a penalty. Finished P7. I'm also going to give him an 8 out of 10. I would probably say another contender for driver of the day, a very unsung hero of this weekend. Qualifying exceptional, putting his car, which was a net place second on the second row, is incredible in Alpine, which looked a little bit off the pace. He's managed to finally score points for Alpine, 6 of them, which is really beneficial in the championship, has taken them off 0 points and has put them ninth. And really just managed to be calm and composed in a Grand Prix which seemed to be absolutely chaotic in strategical terms. Also managed to have some nice battles with Verstappen. It was unfortunate that he couldn't keep Verstappen behind on the last lap, otherwise that would have been really impressive. But still, a P7, you have to give it to him. Fairly impressive. His teammate, Jack Doohan, qualified P11, finished P14. I don't know if I should give him a 5 or 6 because he did qualify well. I'm going to give him 6. Fine, 6. It seems Alpine have picked up the pace. I think they did bring a upgrade to Bahrain, which was, I suppose, beneficial over this weekend. But Jack Doohan, a better Grand Prix than he's had previously. For now, I think he just needs some really calm races in which he can just knuckle in. He doesn't. I mean, point scoring would be nice now, but even if he's close to the points, I think it's still quite a decent feat, considering the Alpine doesn't seem the quickest, and doesn't seem to be deserving of points so far. But I mean, a better race. I think his best Grand Prix so far. He's managed to he just needed a calm race, and in a race which was a bit chaotic, he's actually managed to make it calm. So a lot more of a composed drive from the Australian, and they're saying now that he's been given the whole year until the summer break to really show what he's capable of, and I think it's definitely taken a lot less stress off him, which I think it might have shown this weekend, and so hopefully it's just a stepping stone in building his confidence up. I know Saudi Arabia next week is going to be probably not the best track in terms of confidence, but at least he's done a decent job today and he can build on it. That's all he needs to do now, from now on until the summer. Build on it, learn a bit more of the car, maybe not make more errors, and just fine tune his performances. Aston Martin. Yikes. Lance Stroll now. Lance Stroll qualified P19, finished P17. I mean, I'm going to give him 4 out of 10. Aston Martin just seemed really off the pace this weekend, which is worrying. I would say personally for, I suppose, the rest of the season. Alpine, Stroll, I think I don't think he tried a 3-stopper actually. I think he just tried a 2-stopper. Wasn't really there or thereabouts with the people in front of him. There's still a bit of a gap to the upper midfield DRS train, and just seemed really off the pace. I mean, I'm not giving him a 3 out of 10 because he was not that far off his teammate. However, qualifying was really poor compared to how he started this season. It just seems that he's taken a massive dip in form. And really poor weekend for the Canadian driver. So, not the best. His teammate also, I think, has had a worse weekend. Qualifying P13 and finishing P15, I think it's a 3 out of 10. God, what's happened to Fernando Alonso? 2 years ago in Bahrain, he had a podium, and now he couldn't even get out. He was scraping to get out of Q1. It just seems that Aston Martin, like Sauber, have maybe given up on this year so far and are just focusing on 26. You look at someone like Adrian Newey, they are not really focusing on this year because they don't really have much power and control over what the car's philosophy is like and what direction it's going to face. So, yeah, I mean, this is another building block weekend, maybe a weekend that they need to just tick off the box because it just seems that they are really out of it and it could get a lot worse, which is something that you do not want to be hearing if you are a Red Bull Aston Martin fan. Let's go to Russell. Let's go to Mercedes now. George Russell did qualify P2, but started P3, finished P2. My God, what a performance from George Russell. Gonna have to give him a 9 out of 10 for that. Absolutely exceptional in that Mercedes. Mercedes do look like the second best team, but to hold off Norris on his closing stints on tyres that look like they're really degrading. He managed to do 24, 23 laps on those soft tyres at the end. Really good work. Qualifying as well, exceptional, and he's made it from the first 4 Grand Prix. He's made it 3 podiums, which is really, really positive going into the Saudi Arabia. He just looks like he's more of a complete driver this year. He's managed to kind of tune his mistakes out that he kind of made. You know, he had a reputation of he just turned in on me. You look at maybe, I know, USA 2022 with Sainz. You look at, I know, Imola 21. You look at Singapore 22 with Schumacher. So he's managed to really just knuckle down. He's managed to split the McLarens in qualifying and in the race, which is really, really impressive. No one else has managed to do that, and it just seems that McLaren are really that quick. But Russell is there or thereabouts. If you give him a car, and Mercedes are thinking of a Imola package or Barcelona package, one of them, if that car is close or close enough, if they can manage to find half a tenth or a tenth, God, then I think Russell is in contention for the championship. But in Bahrain, I think he showed that he can be that number one driver for Mercedes, and I think that it is very positive going into Jeddah this weekend. His teammate also, Andrea Antonelli, very good qualifying, qualified P5, did finish P11 though, so I'm going to give him, I don't know if I should give him, I don't know, qualifying was exceptional, but the race is where it counts, so I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 because he did not score points, and that was mainly down to, I believe, strategy. A 3-stop didn't really work, and also he really got screwed over with the safety car because they just put on soft tyres, and then bam, safety car came out literally a lap or 2 later. But his racecraft was exceptional, absolutely flying. His overtakes on Sainz, that dive bomb into turn 1 on Sainz was flawless. His battle with Verstappen going up to turn 4 and making the switchback work on a 4-time world champion is absolutely embarrassing for the Dutchman. But yeah, really, really positive. I'm really enjoying watching him race because I don't think I've ever seen a driver like that. The only driver I've seen which is kind of like that is the likes of Verstappen, Hamilton when they were younger. He's got a lot of talent, that boy. He really does. He's got a lot of raw pace. His qualifying, I mean, he was so close to the top, to Russell. And, I mean, the thing is, so, yes, the strategy was poor, but the racecraft, if he just followed the same strategy as the others, then I think he could have definitely got P4, P5. Because he was quicker than I suppose, everyone bar maybe the top 3, maybe Leclerc was going to be a bit of a push. But yeah, I mean, I don't blame Mercedes for trying something different to, try and get into that top 4 mix. But yeah, phenomenal once again, and really, really impressive. Let's go to the Red Bulls now. Red Bull Racing. Let's go for Max Verstappen. Qualified P6, finished qualified P7, finished P6. God, I don't think I have seen a worse weekend. I think the last time he's finished like that was probably Monza 2024. But I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10 for that. Just because I know that the car was definitely not there. However, it's not more because I personally don't think it was a Max Verstappen esque weekend that we are normally used to getting. I mean, you look at qualifying, he made a couple of lockups. Qualifying was pretty poor. You look at, practice, he was just not happy with setup, with brakes, with everything with the car. He just really didn't like, and that proved dividend in a race. He really was in no man's land for most of it. He did try the 3-stopper, which was a bit, I suppose, out of this world, but he had to try something in order to salvage. He was so far ahead of, the rest of the midfield, but so far behind the top 5 or top 4 that he had to try something different. And it didn't pay off because the safety car, like Antonelli, just came out like that. Also, he wasn't that far ahead of his teammate, which we're used to seeing. Yuki Tsunoda managed to kind of be there or thereabouts with the Dutchman, which, is interesting because it seems that Tsunoda can turn it on if he wants to. But a long way to go for both drivers, for Red Bull in general. And they are praying that Imola package in 3 races time. No, in 2 races, 2 races, yeah. Saudi and then Miami. Yeah, in 2 races time will pay dividend because it seems that their car is easily 3rd, maybe 4th best at this stage. And Verstappen, in order to save his championship, yes, he is in 3rd position in the driver's standings, but that 3rd position is at risk to George Russell. So, 100% he needs to. We saw that his manager, I forgot his name, but the manager of Verstappen was not really happy with Helmut Marko and with the current situation at Red Bull, and that move to Mercedes is probably looking more and more likelier. So, yes, his teammate though, Yuki Tsunoda, qualified P10, finished P9. A very decent weekend. A weekend he had to have. He had to have had. 6 out of 10, I'm going to say, for Yuki Tsunoda. A lot more of a controlled weekend compared to Japan. He's managed to finally put some points on the board, which is really, really, I suppose, positive to see. And not that far off his teammate, which is also positive to see. The first Red Bull driver, other than Verstappen, to score points since, I believe, maybe Brazil last year or Las Vegas. So that's always a bonus for Red Bull. However, Red Bull just in general seem off the pace, so I think he's maximised what the car could have done. And so not a bad performance, 6 out of 10. I think he could be happy with that. As I said, for many of the drivers previously, it's his building blocks which they need to build on. Charles Leclerc qualified P3, did start P2, finished P4. Very solid race, 7 out of 10. His best performance of the season so far. I think Ferrari did bring that downforce upgrade, which I did think has worked some of its magic. I think there's still a lot of potential to be unlocked with that Ferrari, but managed to beat his teammate, managed to be in the mix or thereabouts with the top, for second place. Obviously, Piastri was miles ahead, but really, really, I suppose, getting there or thereabouts gives them another upgrade, and I think they'll be in reach for that Mercedes-McLaren battle. And so, very interesting to see Leclerc after the Grand Prix seem a little bit disheartened, which might mean that there's a lot more potential with that car. But only time will tell, I suppose. Lewis Hamilton now, qualified P5, qualified P9, finished P5. 6 out of 10, I would say for Lewis. His best finish in the Grand Prix for Ferrari so far. Qualifying was really poor, and I think it's just maybe a repeat of the last couple of years with Mercedes. Qualifying seems that he can't just really get a clean lap, get a quick lap in compared to his teammates. Russell and Leclerc are very, very, very good qualifiers. They are. Russell was called Mr. Saturday for a reason, and so yeah, it's a bit like he only finished a couple of places off his team. I think he only finished one place off his teammate. If I am to be, one place off his teammate, which in the whole grand scheme of things isn't too bad. But if his qualifying was at the level of Leclerc, then the possibilities could have been so different for Lewis. He could have been challenging for a podium because his race pace, especially on that middle stint with the mediums, Ferrari looked very strong, which I don't think many people have really taken account of. So people are saying Ferrari is done, but I still think that they've got enough pace to challenge at least for a podium. And I will be surprised if they get to halfway and they haven't got a podium, even a race win. So, 6 out of 10, a better weekend for Lewis, but something that he will be, of course, thinking I could have done a lot better. Let's go to McLaren now. McLaren, Lando Norris qualified P6, finished P3 on the podium. 7 out of 10. Would I say it's his best weekend of Formula 1 so far? No. This is in this season. It's been his worst weekend. I think qualifying really showed how difficult a McLaren is to drive, and also how he really still, every driver needs to be on top of their game, because if they have an off day, then there'll be 4 other people to try and capitalize on his mistakes. I think qualifying has really lost it. He also had really just a little bit of a careless mistakes that he made during the Grand Prix. Like the start, that was not needed. That was a complete rookie error. You learn that in, Formula 4. He still didn't feel confident with the car. There were a couple of lockups, a couple of poor choices in overtaking and wheel-to-wheel battle, which if he capitalized on and was just better and more, I suppose, he executed better, then I think P2 would have been definitely on the cards. But still, he's leading the championship. He's got a podium. He's managed to make 3 places up in the Grand Prix with a 5-second penalty in hindsight. It can't be that bad for McLaren at the moment, for Lando at the moment. He keeps on going in the media and saying he really puts himself down and saying that I just feel like I've forgotten how to drive. The car is just not where I want it. We're not clicking. But you're still leading the championship. So there's a lot that he can really take on board from this weekend, yes, but there's also a lot positively which he could take on board. He's still in the title fight. He's still the favourite to win. So life can't be that bad if you're Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri qualified first, finished first, 9 out of 10. One of his best weekends in F1 altogether. Managed to really execute. That's where I think both McLaren drivers are in different stages of this execution was a make or break for both McLaren drivers. You look at someone like Norris, who didn't really manage to execute well in the Grand Prix, but Piastri did. Start flawless, strategy flawless, overtaking flawless, conserving his tyres flawless, qualifying was exceptional. So you can't put him down. He's just building, Piastri. It is scary to see how much he's come from just 2 years of Formula 1. Let alone, he's got a title-winning car, and there's still 19 races to go. God, the possibilities are endless, and I am more and more excited to see what he'll do out next time in Saudi Arabia. I think that's a good place to wrap up the podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe, and have a simply lovely day. Goodbye.